Because I was a child, I was 3 that particular time when the big raid came. And I think that this wee story that I wrote illustrates well what it was like for a little child, and it's called A Child's War. Despite the fact that I was only 5 years old, I did realise that the wail of the siren was not to be ignored. When it sounded over Belfast, the grown-ups had only one thing to say: "Jerry's are coming," followed by a flurry of activity. Those words struck terror into my heart, and I feared that this time they would definitely get me. I wasn't too sure how this would happen, but the choices for them seemed endless. My main scenario seemed to picture hundreds of stark black figures holding guns, slowly dropping from the inky sky, white silk parachutes drifting above them. Their faces would be hidden behind black goggles, unseen and intent on murdering us all in our beds. Hadn't I seen them myself in the newsreels, in the Saturday morning show in the Curzon Cinema? I knew the flat roof over our coal shed would be an ideal landing place for them, since the big house across the entry from us in Fitzroy Avenue had been taken over by the Yanks, and the Jerrys would be able to fight them from our roof. All the children were fascinated by the Yanks in their tight khaki uniforms. Sometimes I stood on the wee iron bed in our return room to spy on them, hoping they would save us from those awful Jerrys. I could see the Yanks in the yard opposite, peeling their way through big sacks of spuds and vegetables, yet ready for action should the Germans strike. I could hear them talking and singing in their Roy Rogers voices as they peeled the mounds of potatoes in the weak May sunshine. Sometimes they drank a dark liquid from funny shaped bottles, which I later learned to be a drink called Coca-Cola. Now and again the Yanks would catch sight of me, peering through the lace curtain, and would wave in a friendly, easy way. I would jump back, mortified at being caught out, but was drawn back again and again to spy on them. Then I began to wonder what would happen if the Jerrys found out I was friendly with the Yanks. I decided to keep away from the wee return room and to mind my own business in future. The warning siren usually went off at night, and it was a signal for our family to leave warm beds and head for the space under the stairs. This was reached by a wee door in the living room, sometimes called the glory hole. It was a choice of shelter for most Belfast families during the air raids of the 1940s. It also served as a safe storage for the family treasures. Our house was no exception to this rule, and a motley collection was stored there. During a raid, I loved to pass the time inspecting the old musty boxes with their treasure trove of china, silver and ornaments, all carefully wrapped in pages from the Ireland Saturday Night paper. Rose-patterned cups of fine china, too precious to be filled with tea or exposed to the hurly-burly of our kitchen, lay quietly redundant in the layers of yellowing newspaper. Nearby was a big cardboard box with the letter Sunlight soap on its side. It held the big silver teapot, ornate with flowers and leaves, its shiny belly swelling out in pride, holding court with a sugar bowl and a silver milk jug. One particular night I was wakened by the dreaded siren blaring loudly. In great fear we all tumbled down the stairs into our hidey hole to await the drone of the German planes. From the wee door I watched my father preparing to join the men of our street in the nightly watch. I followed his large, comforting shadow in the dim candlelight, dreading the moment he would disappear into the unknown, not sure if he would ever come back again to us. At these times my greatest comfort was my large and extremely black cat, Felix. And as I sat on a pile of cushions at the back of the stairs, I held him. During the raids, it was the custom to open all the windows and doors in the hope of lessening the effect of any blast from a falling bomb. Satisfied that all was in order, my mother would join us at last. Ignoring the distant whine of the enemy planes, we lay back among the cushions, reading the Dandy and the Beano and munching on apples. Felix lay between my knees, purring and dozing. Suddenly he rose and headed for the open door and the freedom of the night. I was too young to comprehend the workings of the feline mind, or what drove that cat to his nocturnal wanderings. All I felt was a terror in my soul for his safety, as he sailed nonchalantly into the hell that was Belfast that particular night. I could hear the Jerry planes droning overhead, sweeping over the city. I could see the flash of the arc lights searching out our enemy, and I could hear the odd muffled explosion. I clapped my hands over my ears as the drone grew louder, and an insane fear for my beloved Felix gripped me. I opened my mouth and I screamed loud and long. No one could pacify me. I wanted my cat and nothing else would do. Where were the Yanks when you needed them? Finally, my mother gave in, and flinging aside the blanket, crawled out to a cold and draughty kitchen. Wishing all cats to hell and back, she fought her way into the pitch black yard, calling softly to the errant Felix. After what seemed an eternity, the black shape of him danced up the yard wall, down onto the mangle and in through the back door. Purposefully, he ran between my legs, tail stiff as a ramrod, and was straight into my waiting arms. Ecstatically, I buried my face in his cold, musky fur, feeling the damp black weight of him on my lap. He had escaped the Germans and the bombs. As he settled in my lap, a deep, resonant purr filtered from his soft body to mine. His claws rhythmically kneaded the arm of my blue, woolly jumper as he gave himself up to the warmth of my body. In the soft flicker of the candle, I watched his green eyes narrow and close. In the distance, I heard the fading drone of the departing German planes. We would live to fight another day. So that sort of illustrates what it was like for me. I was 10 years younger than Maureen at the time, and she remembers so much of it, but my memories are much hazier than that.